Alrighty guys, here is the submitted assignment, voiceover from May 8th. As always, this is some of your better content to listen into, because I'm going to go over each question in detail. I do try to keep these videos as short as possible, but sometimes I'd rather you understand what's going on and it gets a little lengthy. So just bear with me. As always, you guys can skip through things if you don't need to listen to it. If you see you got the right answer but don't need to listen to the explanation, just kind of skip through the video. Okay. Write the slope intercept. So I like to do this, and you guys may have seen this on other answer keys. As I see the form, I write what it is. Point slope and standard. So that go through the points 0, 3, and 2, -1. The reason, and this was a question on one of the assignments the other day, and the reason being, I need you guys, and I want you guys to recognize this stuff right away. This has no x, only a y. That's a y-intercept. And if you can recognize that, then even though I say I like point slope form easier, the easiest form to write is slope intercept. That's what I'm going to right away. I have the y-intercept. Now all I need to do is find the slope. So I'm going to use my 2 points to find the slope. -1 minus 3 over 2 minus 0 gives me a -4 over 2, which means my slope's -2. I have the 2 things I need for this. Here's also why, because you probably didn't hear this, and if we were in class, I would make this known to you. Some of you would then agree with me. Here's why I think point slope form is easiest. You only ever need to find one thing. Once you find the slope, you have 2 things you need. We got lucky here that one of these 2 points was the y-intercept. But more often than not, from 2 points, you got a little bit more work to do before that form is ready. That's why I always like point slope, because then point slope you can use to make the other 2 forms. So I know you guys are pros at this already, finding the slope using the y-intercept to write that form. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So if I do point slope form first, it doesn't matter what point you use. I'll write both answers down, but I'm only going to go through the process for one of them. I'm going to use this 2, -1 point. So y minus, what is my y value? My y value is a -1 equals. Slope is -2, put a parentheses, x minus, what's my x value of that point? It's 2. Just clean this up. Instead of minus and negative, I should have plus. That's why I think point slope form is the easiest, okay? In case you were wondering, the other possible answer would have been y minus 3 equals -2 times. If you write x minus 0, that's definitely acceptable. I mean, that's point slope form. But what you can do, and you're going to see, I'm actually going to use this one because it's the one I used first, but this one would have been the easier one. X minus 0, I don't have to worry about that. Distribute and add. And that's why I like using this form first, because I can use this form to go into slope intercept by just solving for y. If I distribute this -2, subtract the 1, I'm now in slope intercept form. And again, this is a different type of question. If this wasn't the y-intercept, this way would be easier. Because it's the y-intercept, yes, you had your slope, you could have went to that right away. But if you didn't, that's why I like point slope form. Because now, go from this into standard form, well, I just got to add my 2x to the other side, and it's already in standard form. So point slope form is the only form that allows you to go right from that to the next one to the last one. None of these other 2 can actually go into all 3 immediately without you doing an extensive amount of work. So just my opinion why I like point slope form, but you got your answers. Okay, what is special? Oh, we already talked about what's special about that. It's y-intercept, which is definitely special. That's more special than any other type of point. All right, and then last question here. Change y plus 9 equals, so that's in point slope form, in slope intercept and standard. There is more than one way to do that, but I'm going to do it what I did up top there. I think that's the easiest way to do it. I'm just going to manipulate this. So I'm going to distribute the -3. I'm going to subtract the 9 to the other side. And there we go. I've got slope-intercept form. And then this one's just as easy as the one above. To put that in standard, sorry, it's a minus sign. Just got to add the 3x to the other side. 3x plus y equals a -3. It is okay if c is negative in standard form. We're good to go. That's what I was supposed to find. Slope-intercept form, standard form. We got it. On to the back. All right, so with the back, a little bit of a new question this time. Okay, number 4 here. It deals with slope. Okay, so it is about a slope question, but you hadn't seen this. This is something we would do a lot if we had class together. It's just something I don't think we needed to spend a lot of time on, and that's why, because we went virtual, I didn't. But this is definitely something we would have done a lot, because you see this a lot out in the real world. Slope is one of the more applicable Algebra 1 topics. And maybe not exactly calculating a slope, but seeing how steep something is or not so steep. That's slope. So use the graph to answer the questions. What is the rate of change? And that's the big thing. Slope is often talked about as a rate of change. And when you see that, you want to put the slope in context. So for butter, it goes, one of the points is 0, 0, and then it goes up to 2, 100. So I went up, my rise was 100, and my run was 2. So the common mistake that happens with this, because this is a test question, if we would have been in class, is a lot of people call this 2 over 2. Just, you got to make sure you pay attention, guys, to your labels here. I do go up 2, but when I go up 1, I'm actually going up 50. So I went up 100 to the right 2. So 50 calories per ounce. So every ounce, there are 50 calories in butter. All right, a substitute for butter is cream cheese. So as we look at cream cheese, what happens? That goes up 50 to the right 2. So 50 over 2 equals 25 over 1. So there are 25 calories per ounce. So depending on what you're trying to do, you would decide what you want to use. Obviously, there's different tastes for different things, but if you're strictly looking to have less calories, I'd be using cream cheese according to this graph. How do the number of calories per ounce in butter compare? Cream cheese has half as many calories per ounce, and that is important. Okay, you do definitely need to say that. You can't just say cream cheese has half as many calories, because that's not true, depending on how you compare them. Okay, it has half as many calories per ounce. Or you could say butter has twice the amount per ounce, butter has more, cream cheese has less. You can say that a lot of different ways. Number 5, what is the x and y intercept? Oh, okay, good question. X-intercept has an x value, doesn't have a y value. Easiest way to find this. Again, if we were in class, I would have done this on the whiteboard. Easiest way to find the x-intercept, cover up the y, solve the equation in your head. 5 times what equals 30? 6. So my x-intercept is 6. 6, 0. I mean, you can do all the work if you want to. Plug a 0 in for y, solve. But you're going to get the same answer anyways. So that's what I would do if I were in class with you. Then I'd say for the y-intercept, same thing. Cover up the x. -3 times what equals 30? Well, negative 3 times a negative 10 equals 30. So I got my x and y-intercept. That's why I don't think when we start to graph next week, standard form's pretty easy if, here's a real application of LCM, if C is the LCM or is a multiple. Doesn't have to be the least common multiple, but if it is a multiple of A and B. If A and B go into C, this is easy to graph. Get your graph out, graph your y-intercepts, 6, 0, 0, negative 10. I just created my graph. So graphing in standard form is not that bad if C is a multiple of A and B. So keep that in mind for next week because we're going to graph next week. All right, number 6. Use the x and y-intercepts. From number 5, write the linear equation in slope, intercept, and point slope. So either way, I do have to find the slope. So I now have 2 points. Let's find the point. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It makes it positive. They both reduce by a factor of 2. Slope is 5/3. So I'm going to go, again, I'm going point slope. It's the easiest, I think. I have all the information I need. Although, again, yeah, slope intercept, I have the y-intercept, so maybe not. Maybe that's easier. Y equals 5/3 x plus b. B is a negative 10. Yeah, that was easier. If you have the y-intercept, slope intercept form's easier. But if not, then point slope first. Point slope, y minus, doesn't matter what point you want to use, let's just keep using the y-intercept. So it's minus a negative 10 equals the slope times by x minus 0. Well, if we clean that up, we would actually probably write it something like this. That's an acceptable way to write it, honestly, with the 0 there, because you're writing it in point slope form, but you could have also written it like this if you want to. That would be acceptable as well. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in. We're starting to count down the weeks. We're almost there.